I wrote a book! Hi, my name is Max, and I am the author of Quiet Practice, a Deafblind Druid's Guide to Practice Without Speech. Yee! I am so excited to finally be able to share this with everybody because I have been working on this for longer than I had been employed by the time I finished it. I spent 1,313-ish days writing this book, and I couldn't say anything. If you're a long-time subscriber, you might know that, you know, the end of the year or the start of the year, I'll make like goals videos. Did I achieve my goals? And every year I have said, I'm going to finish writing my book, and then I've edited it out. I finished my book at the end of last year, 1 week before I went to Norway, and it is out now as of the 1st of June. You can get it from Phoenix Flames Publishing, you can get it from Amazon, you can also find me in a field and I will sell you a copy. And the publisher also goes to all of the, not all of them obviously, but a lot of the pagan and druid camps that happen in the UK, so you might be able to catch a copy there too. But oh my god, I wrote a book! So what is the book actually about? So this is a book about removing speech from pagan and druid practice. And it also works for other spiritual paths as well. It's written from my perspective as a pagan and a druid. There is no reason it couldn't work for other faiths. It is not aimed solely at deafblind people. Usually when we put deafblind or disabled on the title of anything, people assume it's only for disabled people, and it isn't. But, you know, a large part of it does talk about disability, but you don't have to be disabled to be quiet. Accessibility is at the forefront of this book, but it's also for people with open minds, people who are curious, people who want to try something new, as well as autistic people, non-verbal people, non-speaking people, pagan elders, group leaders, allies, anybody, works for anyone. Quiet Practice begins with laying the foundations, so we take a deep dive into speech. Why do we use it? What's its purpose? What is it achieving? Do languages come into it? I wrote what I think is a really cool chapter about whether the gods will speak English or not. I also introduce myself, my own journey with deafblindness, and my own journey with quiet practice. I was a quiet practitioner long before I knew I was deafblind. There's many reasons why people don't feel comfortable speaking during pagan practice. I talk about who else might practice quietly, and we ask, why are pagans always chanting? It is true, it's what we do. I am a believer in understanding before adapting, because that's how you adapt the best. In the book I liken it to replacing ingredients in a cake recipe. If I want to make a cake recipe vegan, I need to know what the animal products are actually doing before I can replace them properly. Is it adding moisture? Is it binding? Is it like a leavening agent? I need to know these things. If we don't understand why speech is being used, how can we replace it properly? So once we're all on the same page, we move into the senses themselves. And I will be real with you, it is quite ironic that the druid who doesn't actually stop talking is talking about using the senses, two of which they don't have. But I know what I'm doing. We go through each of the 5 senses and then the bonus, let's just do stuff. Because there are a lot of activities that I talk about that aren't sensory, but are very useful in filling in where we've taken speech out. There are so many things in this book that you can explore as part of your pagan practice. Then once you have a bunch of ideas, you've found the practices you want to do, you found the activities, the tasks, the things that you want to do. We talk about how to advocate for what you want to do, how to advocate for each other in a group setting, how to be accessible, and how to make it all work. It is my passionate belief that disabled people belong in faith spaces, and disability can be very complex, and it can impact the way that we speak with each other and the way that we communicate and the way that we communicate with our covens, our groves, with gods, with goddesses, with deity, with ancestors, spirits, the world, etc. And I believe we all have a place. So if you can't speak, if you don't want to speak, quiet practice is for you. Now that we've done the advertising section of the video, because obviously you have to. I'm very proud of this, by the way. This is going to become my entire personality, I think, for a while. You can buy your copy, of course, from Phoenix Flames Publishing. You can get it from Amazon. I'm toying with the idea of selling signed copies on one of the many selling platforms, so if that's something that you're interested in, please do let me know. You can also find them in the Phoenix Flames shop in Sutton and Ashfield, and then you can also find copies of the book in many of the pagan camps around the country. I'm sure there'll be a list somewhere on social media. I will let you know when I know my book is going to be there. So let's talk about like the other author stuff. I googled what to do as a debut author. I don't really know what I'm doing. It's my first time. Why did I write this book? Oh boy, where do I begin with that? Why did I want to write a book? I think a lot of kids have the aspiration to be an author at some point. They'll read a really good book and they'll say, I want to be an author when I grow up. And most people go, yeah. And I had that, and it came and it went. And then in my teenage years, and I started picking up like druid books, pagan books, and when I was reading them, I was thinking that these people were so smart, and one day I hope I know enough about this thing that I will be able to write one. That sounded weird, but it was always kind of on the back burner of like, one day I want to write a book about paganism because I enjoy reading them and I take so much value from them, and one day I hope I can add that value back. And then as part of my pagan, druid, Wiccan journey, a lot of the work, the group work, involved speaking, and I was becoming increasingly sort of uncomfortable with it, that it was just so prevalent and there was no other option. And then at the start of my deaf-blindness journey and learning why it was so difficult for me and not everybody else, and I figured that if it's happening to me, I'm probably not the only one. Like, I am allergic to cold, but I'm not the only one, even though that is super weird. More up there if you're new. So one day I had the idea of, what if I wrote a book about taking speech out of spiritual practice? Could that be a book? And then I thought about it and I just started planning like all the things I could talk about. I don't know why I really settled on book, but I was making YouTube videos. I had so much to say about it that if I made a YouTube video, it would be about 4 hours long. And I wanted to talk about this in other arenas as well. So I didn't just want it to be a video on the internet that I then relied on things like algorithms to reach. I'm not in it for views, but my videos don't get a lot of views. So if something I'm super passionate about, poured my heart and soul into, make a 4-hour video, gets 60 odd views, I mean, 60 people might not read my book, maybe only 20 or something, but it will be there. It will be an option. It's something that you can have, you can come back to. You don't need an internet connection for. You can read it in a field. I can go and do a talk about it. No one's booking me to do a talk about a video I made. They're booking me for talks for the things that I do in my real life, or the things that I have made. I've already got some book talks lined up, and I don't know, I just felt like a book was right for it. And there was also like a huge gap in the market because a lot of the books about paganism and druidry are, okay, so say this, and there's not that many explicit alternatives to speaking. I've not read in any of the many pagan books that I have read, say this. But if you're not comfortable, or it's not safe to, or you're unable to, here's what you can do instead. Even though they'll talk about the things you can do instead, like, you know, making an incense, or using crystals, or using a sign language, they don't talk about it in the speech context. So I thought maybe we can just add to this, make it another layer of accessibility, because disabled people belong in druidry, and we belong in paganism, and we belong in all faiths, let's be honest. When did I start writing this book? I started writing this book September 2021, around the time when I became a druid with Obod, because I was unemployed. I was making videos on a weekly basis, which I loved, I had a great time doing, but I had time, and I wanted to do something else, and I wanted to, I don't know, it just felt like the right time to make like a bigger project. Like, if I am not going to be employed and contributing that way, let's do something different with this spare time that I have. Did manage to get employed not long after that, April 2022, balancing having a full-time job for the first time, learning all the things, quite a long commute, and then living in a house share with other people, and doing like shared cooking and meals and things, it didn't leave me with a lot of time to write the book. And it was always on my goals, it was always on my list, like I really need to write some of this book. And I just couldn't quite make the time. And then I moved house into this one, and same thing, really, just learning how to survive, and well, now not being fed by other people a few times a week and having to fend for myself every night of the week. And then also, like, you know, mental health got in the way of that, and just sort of like feeling like I should be happy and ecstatic, and then just being like, but living is really hard. And then also taking on loads of advocacy, and then being invited all over the country to give talks about being a disabled person in science. It didn't leave me with a lot of time. And every year at one of the pagan camps that I go to, one of my friends was always like, come on, you gotta get that book done. You can do it. I believe in you. Only 100 words a week. Try, 500 words a week. And then at the very end of 2024, that friend unfortunately passed away, and my little goblin brain decided, like, right, okay, she'll never get to read it now, and she was our biggest supporter, but it still deserves to be read. But you cannot keep having this massive project hanging over you forever. If you don't write it, somebody else will. So I set myself a deadline of, okay, if I don't finish this book by the end of 2025, give up. And when have you ever known me to give up on anything? Come on. I tried to write a chapter a month. I didn't give myself a word count. I got like milestones, so like chapters, or like, plan this, get at least this far through. I'd like posters on my wall and sticky notes and just like do this, do this, do this. And then a huge checklist of like final draft things to like go through the notes app on my phone and make sure I've not missed anything. Go through all the post-it notes you find in random notebooks. And yes, I spent most of 2025 doing that. The bulk of the book, I'd say at least 80% of the book was written in 2025, alongside all my other stuff like going and giving talks, resuming YouTube videos on a regular basis, and just doing more things. So I've been encouraged to read an excerpt. Apparently people like that, so you can hear the writing style. I haven't planned which one to read. Nothing's really spoilers because there's no characters in it. I'm going to read you the chapter. I'm going to read you the starting paragraph of the chapter about sound. I know. So, Quiet Practice, a DeafBlind Druid's Guide to Practice Without Speech. Chapter 4, Sound. I know. Why are we talking about sound in a book about practicing paganism quietly? Well, I said quiet, not silent. This chapter is aimed at those who want to experiment with not speaking during their ritual, but want to utilize different sounds instead. It also serves as a stepping stone into the world of quiet practice. Or perhaps you want to experiment with sounds on top of speech. As discussed in the previous chapter, sound can be used by pagans in many ways to invoke spirit, energize the room, cleanse a space, and put yourself in the right headspace for magic. Lots of people use speech and prose to enact these things, but why limit yourself to speech when you can use other sounds from different tools instead? There's another paragraph that I'm going to read to you from the chapter called Why Are Pagans Always Chanting? I just like it. Sometimes making noise is just fun. Not everything in magic needs to be solemn and have a set purpose that is strictly adhered to. Sometimes it's just fun to sit around a fire and chant together. Sometimes it's fun to speak out loud to a deity. Speaking during a ritual or a spell can be fun for many reasons. For example, putting you in the magical headspace like we discussed. It can feel celebratory, much like singing happy birthday at a party. People outside of religion and spiritual practice sing and talk for fun, and there is no reason why this can't be the case in our pagan practices. Sometimes sound is used in our practice merely because we want to. It might feel important, it might feel fun, it might just feel like the right thing to do. You can speak if you want to, no matter what you have to say. Because this isn't a book telling you that you shouldn't speak. It's just here for those who'd rather not, or they want something else. I'm giving you options. I'll read a paragraph from a random page. This is fun. It's my book, my rules. Haha! I believe that spiritual practice and kindness exist as a Venn diagram, no matter which faith you belong to. Take, for example, the Wiccan reed. Do what you will, harm none. To harm would be unkind, so by following the reed, you would in all likelihood end up being at least a bit kind. From kindness comes other virtues like compassion, care, love, support. In a world where people take pleasure in unkindness, be kind and strive towards justice. You can be kind while being quiet. You don't need to speak to give a gift. You don't need to speak to hand something back to somebody. You don't need to speak to hold the door open. So that is my book, Quiet Practice, a Deafblind Druid's Guide to Practice Without Speech. Hopefully this is not going to become my entire personality forever, but maybe. So don't forget to like this video if you liked this video. If you have any questions, drop them down in the comments section below. There will probably be a follow-up video when I have calmed down from all of the excitement and the overwhelm and the kind of uncertainty. I've never been an author before, I don't really know what I'm doing. So there'll be a follow-up video. If you have any questions, I'll include them in that. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and don't forget to ring that notification bell so you get notified every single time I post a new video. Videos go up once a month on a Saturday at about 6 p.m. UK time, somewhere in the middle. Sometimes I have exciting things and they come up early. Sometimes I have exciting things that make the video late. See ya.